What's up, everybody? Zach here with the NerdCave, and today we're swinging into our Spider-Man 2 review, and I'm joined along with He Knows Games. We got Bo Knows Games. Welcome, Bo.
Hey, nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
And we have the king of the backlog. We have Derek Daniel.
What's up, everybody? That is no truer words have been spoken.
So I'm excited. I got all three of us here. We're going to be talking about Spider-Man 2. Bo, so glad to have you on the NerdCave. We've been trying to get you on for quite some time. It's been shifted and moved around several times, but glad we got you on here.
Well, it's good to be here. I'm excited to talk about Spider-Man.
This is going to be as spoiler-free as we can make it, but, that kind of depends on who's watching and all of that. But we are going to be going in-depth with the game. So, Derek, I'm going to start with you. Your 30,000 kind of foot overview of the game.
Yeah.
And then if you feel comfortable giving it a score, 5 being amazing, 4 being great, 3 good, 2 okay, and 1 being poor. So, Derek.
Oh, for context for people at home, I'm the furthest behind. Spoilers for when we talk to Zach. He's already rolled credits on the game, so he is the furthest out of all of us. Bo is probably, what would you say, over halfway, just a tad bit over halfway through the game?
It feels about halfway, yeah. Somewhere in Act 2.
So I am the furthest behind. Still very early in the game, like probably not even 12 hours into the game. Like I'm the one who does all the side quests, but just the overall look, this game just feels better. Like I know I talked a little bit about it on our show on Thursday, like just the swing mechanics, the traversal, just the side quests, like being a little bit more impactful. Like, yes, there's still some like collectathons, obviously, but they give a little bit more interesting side story to them. And like the villains this time, like not to say that the Sinister Six from the first game wasn't intimidating, but it took them a little bit to build up to that. It was mainly focused on Mr. Negative. This one time around, like from the jump, like when Kraven comes in, is just super intense, and like you already get the feel for how this game is going to go. But like I said, it's so much better overall. Like, of course, there's some things here and there. Like, there's some things that they carried over that people didn't like from the first game, but I still figure it's a solid 4 out of 5 for me. Like, it's not, is it still game of the year contender? In my mind, it is. But to me, and I know it's unfair to put it on the pedestal with God of War Ragnarok, but it's not up there with Ragnarok, in my opinion. But it's just a notch below it.
All right. Bo, let us hear what you think. What do you think about the game?
Right from the get-go, like Derek said, they throw you right into the action. I mean, it does not take any time at all. And that's really cool. I thought that the way that they handled that as a tutorial is what it was used as, I guess, really. But they kind of, in a way, masked that in this really big action set piece with Sandman. And I just thought that was done really well. And, for people who have played the first one and Miles Morales, maybe it wasn't completely necessary. And maybe for those people, it felt a little slow. Because it kept, stopping you and telling you what you needed to do next at certain points. But for anybody that's new to it or who hasn't played those, since they came out, I think Miles came out in 2020, right? So it's been 3 years almost since that game came out. If you haven't played it since then it was a nice refresher as to the combat mechanics and what you need to do. And it introduced you to some new things as well. And I thought that was done really well. Since that point in the game, it just continues to flow. It's one of these things, when we were growing up playing games, man, we had load screens and like levels ended and it gave you a score, and then you could like say, all right, I'm done for tonight, and walk away, or you get up and get a snack or a drink or whatever. Man, it doesn't happen anymore. Like this game just keeps flowing right into the next thing, and it doesn't load anything. And man, we're just all dehydrated. We're just all dehydrated now. We don't have time to take a drink.
We're all sweaty boys.
Yeah, it just keeps going. The next thing. And I think that's challenging, because at some point you have to have the self-discipline to stop, but it doesn't really give you a chance to stop, and because man, the action just keeps going. And even when you finish a big fight, like it jumps automatically into some kind of phone call, and there's some more dialogue, that you're talking to somebody, and then it's like, well, I guess I'll go do this now while I'm waiting on this person or whatever. And so it's like redirecting you immediately, and all of that without any loading. And to that effect, I'd say too, with this new wingsuit mechanic, man, you turn that thing on and you are flying. You get in one of those jet streams, you are flying through the city so fast. And I know that those are placed in specific areas, but I'm one of these, like, what do you call them? Pixel peeper. Like I like zoom in on pictures and stuff, and I'm like looking for all the details. I'm looking for pop in, and there just isn't any. There's just not any in this game. It's just like the cars, the buildings, all of it's there, and you're going so fast through the whole city, and it's unbelievable. So I think that this to me finally feels like a next gen game, now current gen, but it finally feels like a what we should have had, a couple of years ago. But it's just been such a weird generation so far. With game releases and things being delayed, and I don't know, studios haven't been able to figure things out, seems like, since the pandemic. And so it feels really good. It feels like what the PS5 was meant to do, made to do. And I really like that about it too. The story is good. Obviously the graphics are good. I think the sound design is really good. The combat is great. I feel like at some point some modder is going to stick Batman from the Arkham series in there as Spider-Man, and we're just going to be playing the next Arkham game instead of Spider-Man. But I mean, it's fine to take inspiration from Batman, because the combat in the Arkham series is excellent. So I'm loving all that. There's a couple of, Derek, you said you played all the side mission stuff, and I'd be curious to hear, because I've been skipping a lot of that. The couple of ones that I've done, there's so many of them. So I don't know how impressed I was with the ones that I've done yet, because but like I said, I've only done a couple of them. The main story I've really enjoyed so far. It's kept me interested, and I feel like I care about what's going to happen to Peter and Harry. It really feels like I feel like Miles is kind of, at least to this point in the game, Miles is kind of taking a little bit of a back seat. And this game has really been about the relationship between Peter and Harry.
Yeah.
I think that's good, and that keeps us interested. It's maybe a little strange, because the first game, Harry's not there. Like they keep talking about him, but he's in Europe. He's somewhere in Europe is what they keep saying the whole time, and he's not really in the game. It feels weird. Like Norman Osborn in the first one, and in Miles, he's kind of the villain, and in this one, he's like suddenly this very loving, caring dad. At least so far in the story.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that feels a little weird to me. I'm nitpicking now at this point.
Right.
But overall, there are some things that they changed or tweaked, or like, I feel like there's more combat in this one than there has been. Like when the villains show up, I feel like there's more of them. I don't know if you guys feel that way, but I feel like there's more of them to defeat each time you come into a gang of them.
Oh, yeah.
When you chase through the car chases, they changed that, where you used to have to like dodge a couple of different guys and pull them out of the car first. And this time you just spray all of them inside the car at once and stop the car. And it's just like really fast. And so like stuff like that. I don't know if I feel like that's streamlined and it's better, or if I feel like they took something away that I kind of enjoyed. And I'm not sure which way I'm leaning yet on that, but I just noticed that was kind of different and weird.
Yeah. With the cars, like I remember in the first one, it taking so long to like, you had to like smash square or whatever like stop the car, and like doing several of those like within an hour, it got so repetitive. This, I felt like it's like, okay, it is faster, but I don't feel like I'm breaking my controller pressing square to stop this car.
That's true. And I sometimes wouldn't even be able to hit square enough times in the allotted time limit, and the car would crash or whatever, and it always made me feel bad. Like I let the city down.
I know. Well, and I think like to like Zach, what like Zach pointed out, like some of those, like what I'm glad for is like, yes, it does get credit for the overall district progress, but like the crimes of New York type thing going on, like the little mini ones, like those were required to complete the districts in the first game. And that kind of got tedious because it would be a lot of repetitive, or like a lot of the ones, because you couldn't choose them. They were just randomized. And that, like, a lot of them I didn't care for. It's like, all right, this is useless, this is pointless, but I want to complete the district. This one is like, it's completely optional. You can do it. And I like the simplicity of it. Now, there are some, there's like a faction that's in there, you know, of the Flames that, you know, those, like some of those like little like red, when those go off and I see, oh, the fire thing, I'm like, oh no, this is going to be way more difficult than it should be. But you know, it's still optional, which is what I'm glad about.
That might be one of the ones that I did. It was just like the very first one when you first find out about them or something. And I haven't done any of those since then, but I do know what you're talking about. But just like the car thing being so much shorter, it's almost like it's like, I won't do that, because it's like it doesn't feel like it's even, I don't know, something about it being shorter makes it feel less worth my time than when it was longer to me for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know. But I did a couple of the Mysterio ones, and you know, those are kind of cool. So far, like I said, I've only done a couple of those side missions, but so far he kind of feels like the Riddler from the Arkham series in this game to me a little bit. Kind of has that vibe a little bit, and I'm wondering if there's something more sinister going on with him than what there first appears to be. But yeah, I guess score wise, man, I would give it. If we're doing out of 5, I'd probably right now, not having finished it, I feel like I'm about halfway through though. I would give it about a 4.2.
Nice.
If I may.
Nice. So I have rolled credits today, and the thing that I like stands out to me is the balance of the story. I know where Bo is and where Derek is. It does seem to lean a little bit more Peter and Harry's relationship a lot of the times, but it does play into Miles's story pretty well later on. Especially because Miles is trying to get into college. He's also trying to start a relationship. So there's a lot of things going on, but past just Peter and Miles, like they do a great job of balancing the Kraven storyline, MJ's storyline, Harry's, Rio Morales's, Norman, and just like the city as well. Insomniac did such a fantastic job balancing all of the stuff in the story. So like that's the thing, like rolling credits, seeing it at the end, I'm like, okay, that was fantastic. Is it as impactful as God of War Ragnarok on a storytelling level? Not to me, but that doesn't, you know, that's like comparing, you know, the Iliad to, you know, Twilight or something like that. It's like on a whole different level, in my opinion. To Bo's point, I thought it was interesting how you were bringing out the, once you finish a mission, there's a phone call, and then there's this, and then there's this. But it feels a lot like YouTube, how everything is cut there. It's cut for retention. They're trying to keep you in the game the whole time. They're like, as soon as you're done, oh, well, I need, there's a crime, I can go do that. And then there's a phone call. Oh, there's a photo op. And, you know, there's, you know, Hunter Blind, all of these different things going on constantly. It definitely keeps you in the whole thing. And with the wingsuit, I think you said it pretty well. It feels like you're flying through. It feels like a Superman game when you hit the wingsuit. Yeah. When you're hitting those wind tunnels, it's like, this feels like Superman here going through all of this. The whole game feels so well built through the whole thing. Now, I'm going to point out some bugs. I've had probably 2 bugs the whole time that I played. There's a boss fight. I got knocked out maybe half a foot out of bounds. And then there's like tons of enemies around me. I can't zip back to them, nothing. And you're supposed to fall through the floor after you defeat all the enemies. I had to restart and go through like four levels of enemies again to get where I was. And that was a little annoying, but it wasn't game breaking. And then there was the Coney Island section, my haptic feedback just would not stop. It just kept going. And I was just like, my God, will this ever stop? I'd stop, I'd pause, I'd do different things, just try to getting it to stop. So I just had to like save and then go to the menu and come back for it to get to stop. But throughout my 30 plus hours, that was the only thing that I had.
I had 2 bugs. I've seen 2 bugs as well, and they were both in the Coney Island section. One was I was walking by just a bench, and it prompted me to sit down, and so I did. And then MJ came over and sat next to me, and it prompted me to talk to MJ. I was like, "Oh, okay. I'll just see what they're going to say to each other or whatever." And because I like those little side conversations that you can just miss. Like sometimes they're kind of cool. And so I hit that, and the prompt went away, but nothing happened. And I could still like kind of move the camera a little bit and look left to right a little bit, but nobody was talking. Like nothing was happening, and I couldn't pause. I couldn't do anything. Like it wouldn't let me do anything, and so I had to back out to the home menu and restart the game. And then later on, there was a civilian who was scared, and they had crouched down. They were like trying to hide, except that they were out, like they weren't hiding behind anything. They were like out in the middle of just an area, and they were 12 feet off the ground, just hovering, but crouched down and like hiding, like they were, because there's a fight that breaks out and they were hiding from it. So, that was kind of weird, but again, it wasn't, it didn't break anything. It was just kind of a weird glitch. And I've seen a couple people here and there like clip through a door or something, just that kind of normal kind of stuff. But for the most part, I think it's built really well. And I think that they had the first one and they built off of that. They remastered that and built off of it for Miles. And so they had like a really strong foundation, and they've reused, I feel like, a lot of that stuff, and I think that probably helped them, put this out quick as they did, without having these long 6-7 year turnarounds like most other companies.
Over, playing through all of it, like I'm going to start a new playthrough. Like I am so enjoying this game. Like I knew I would, but I just want to keep living in the world. I just want to experience it more and more. And for me, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound crazy, even though the story didn't make me cry, and a lot of games make me cry, Bo. I don't know if you know this about me. I cry at games. Didn't. Yeah, now you know.
Emotional guy. Yeah.
I give this a 5 out of 5.
Okay.
Just because I think sitting down and just getting to play through it as much as I have, kind of all at once, I didn't have to break up as much as I did like God of War or whatever. I just really enjoyed being Spider-Man, either Peter or Miles. Like it was just so much fun.
And it's crazy how fast you can switch between the two of them too. Have you tried that? Have you noticed that?
Yeah, like being able, like you go up to like a one that might be Miles or whatever. It's like, oh, this is more for Miles, and like just boom, you're Miles. Like it's so crazy,
right?
Yeah, it is. And sometimes like it's kind of neat because I feel like the other one, whichever one you're not, is sort of like out in the city doing stuff.
Yeah,
and sometimes you'll just run into them. Like you'll see a fight and you'll be like, okay, and you go in there and the other one's there and they're fighting there already.
Yeah.
It's like, so I don't know, that's just kind of neat that they did it that way. A 5 out of 5 though. I wonder about that second half of the game that I haven't played yet, because I'm sure that there's got to be maybe some twists and turns. Like so far, I feel like it's been fairly like what I thought it was going to be. It's good. It's really good, but there's nothing that's been shocking to me yet. And so I'm kind of waiting for that twist that might elevate my score.
The second half has a lot of interesting things, like being a child of the 90s and the 90s Spider-Man. There's a lot of things that are nodded at and shown, and it's just really cool. Like things I would not have ever expected to see, I've gotten to see, and I'm just like, okay, was not expecting that person to show up, and boom, there they were. That sort of deal, and that love, care, and attention that Insomniac has done for this universe, I think is really good. And to the story, Miles's character development in this game is superb. Like, he goes through a very, very good character development from the beginning. I don't want to ruin anything because you haven't finished it, but I think his character development is as good as like any Peter Parker story in this game.
Can I ask a question that I don't want to spoil it for myself even. So but do you feel like, having finished it, in terms of Miles, do you feel like they've set him up to be like the main protagonist in the third game, or do you think that they will make a Miles Morales 2?
I could definitely see a Miles Morales 2 coming out. I know that they've said that there is a third that they're going to be making. I don't want to give away anything to the end. But I do think that they could make just a standalone Miles game if they wanted to. But his story is really, really good. I will just say that.
Good.
So I kind of want to bring, since we're talking about story and everything, let's talk about the big bad in this game, or one of the big bads, Kraven. Yeah. How did y'all what was y'all's reception on Kraven as the big hunter? Like, did you feel like you were in danger all the time, or did you feel like he was just kind of this, characters like that you should feel that way, but you didn't really?
I'm gonna defer to Derek. I'll zip my lip for a second.
Okay, so to use a more like slang term, that when he shows up the first time toward the beginning of the game, like when they're hunting down, when they're like going after some villains that are being transported, like the way he just steps off the copter is just like exudes Black Air Force energy, and it's just like it's just like intense, and like he sets the tone for this, because that's the biggest thing about how you said the story is well balanced, the character development is great, like this and how we've all talked about, like from the get-go, like from the Sandman fight, and then shortly after that, we're introduced to Kraven. Like, this game, just the tone of this game feels different, because when you do the Sandman side quests in that game, you understand why he just all of a sudden just showed up after not being even mentioned in the first game, pretty much, and like is just like tearing through the city, and it's very heartwarming. But you also find out why he did what he did, and it has to do with Kraven. Kraven is pretty much like, for those of you who don't, I'm not going to like spoil anything like that he's done in the game from what I've seen to this point, but just as a like what him in through comic book history, he's a hunter. He likes challenges. He wants to be like the big game, like the big, because he's got that lion's mane vest, and like he just wants to be king of the jungle. And if he runs out of people to hunt, he's going to go find a new playground, and that's what he does. He comes to New York, and he has his sights set on pretty much like anyone, like any kind, if you're a villain, hero, or somewhere in between in New York City, he's going to come after you. And then there's a point where he's captured some people, and then like when you see like what he does, it's like, man, like you don't really see this like in, not really, I mean, of course you see it in video games, like superhero stuff, like minus like MCU or like DCU stuff, like the darker stuff, like you don't really see it in superhero video games. It's all like, oh, they get injured or knocked out. Like you really don't see like intense stuff. And it's like, okay, he's a different kind. And let me backtrack. You don't see him like do like name brand people. Like it may be like these one-off characters that you're introduced to, but like name brand people, it's like, bro, okay, you're just built different. You're here to establish something in this game.
Bo, what were your thoughts on Kraven?
Well, he definitely exudes that alpha predator vibe. He's and they talk, at least they mention in the game, like he's stronger than he should be. Like he's just I don't know. He looks tough. I haven't had to fight him yet to the point where I am, but he has been observing me. He's attacked a couple of times, but he's kind of like held back and just watched. It's more like he's just trying to figure out, like, I guess what a hunter would do. What is my prey? How strong is my prey really? And what makes them tick, and what's their weaknesses and stuff. And so I think that that's cool. I love his character model design. I think it is so good. It looks so good. And to that point, I mean, the hair in this game looks so good. And he's got that fur, like you said, on his coat and stuff, and it just looks good. It just looks good.
And I think it's a testament, because just like going over all the games, like the Spider-Man suits that Insomniac has put in all 3 games that they've done has been really detailed, like really a testament to like their love for the comics and respect for the comics. But I don't think they get enough praise for just like the villain designs. Like even the first game, like the Sinister Six, like their suit designs and their structures is cool. And they just amplify that with Kraven and some other characters in this game as well.
I mean, Lizard, I think the same thing about Lizard. The Lizard design is really, really nice too. Here's the thing that nitpicking on Kraven that I think is kind of bizarre is that he is portrayed as this hunter, and they keep talking about him being a hunter, and all of his goons are called the Hunters. But so far it seemed more like he's like telling all of his henchmen to go out and hunt and then just bring it back alive, and then he's going to fight it and kill it. Like he's not actually doing the hunting, and that to me seems a little bizarre. But other than that, I think he's been really cool. I've already learned a little bit about his past and investigated his past a little bit, and that has been interesting to me as well. And there's I don't want to spoil things, but you do have a chance to kind of investigate. I'll just say, like, he has kind of like an office, and you get to investigate that room and see some things on his desk and whatever, and that was really interesting to me to see that.
To your point, the stuff that you find out, it gives you more of the understanding of why he's going to these lengths for this last hunt, essentially the Great Hunt. He's trying to find it, and you start seeing the world in his lens, which I think is always a cool thing when you get to see the world from the villain's perspective, because, the best stories, the villains think they are a hero. They think they're the ones that are the heroes and everything. And Kraven's motivations are one of the most basic things. He wants to, make a name for himself. He wants to stand out. He doesn't want to be, forgotten type deal. And I think Kraven overall is way stronger than like the villains in the past Marvel, like the Spider-Man games. Because the other ones, Doc Ock in the first one, revenge. The Tinkerer, revenge. Both of those were revenge. This one is like nothing about that. It's like he's not coming after revenge. He is just wrecking house. And to your point about the hunters, it does feel weird where he's just like, we'll get them there, and then, I'll go on the hunt then. But it does kind of lessen it at him as a hunter in that way. It's like he's not out in the street just doing it.
Have you guys played like Metroid Dread? Have you played that by any chance? Or like Resident Evil 3 with what's that, Mr. X or or is that in Nemesis? Where you're like that's Nemesis, being hunted.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's like this just like sense of, you're like, I don't know. I can't think of the word right now, but you're being hunted. Like I haven't felt like I was being hunted yet, by Kraven. And maybe the game gets there, like I said, I've only played about half of it. So, but I think it's weird too that, like you said, he, if he runs out of things to hunt, he finds a new hunting ground, a new playground, and he goes to New York, and they show him the map, and all these villains pop up on this map, and so he's ready to hunt those guys, but he's not interested in Spider-Man at first at all, because it's not a revenge story on Spider-Man. But what's weird about that is that, like, doesn't anyone in his group of villains, like, don't they know that Spider-Man beat all of those other guys?
Yeah.
So
That's
Spider-Man
a very good point.
should be at the top of his list of people to hunt, but he's not.
Right.
He's like, I don't care about Spider-Man. He just like lets him go like several times in the first for at least in Act 1 of the game. And so I don't know. But he is a cool villain.
It feels like he's working up the food chain instead of like starting at the top. It's like, if you really want the challenge, like you should start at the top instead of, working on the bottom.
That's a good point, because if you beat the top dog, then the rest of it is like, oh, the top dog beat all of you. What challenge will you pose for me if I beat the top dog? Nothing. So I get it, but I think it's also too because, like we've all talked about, like Kraven likes to learn you and study you, and like if he's fighting some of the people that he's taken out, he's like, all right, so far he's been unstoppable. Maybe I can find something like a gadget, an ability, like some type of tactic that I can take from some of his villains and apply it to me to take him out or be able to get my trophy prize.
Yeah, maybe so.
He does a lot of research, and with Scorpion, like he learns how to counteract the poison. He does a lot of like, oh, this is where your weakness is. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
He just isn't brute force.
Yeah, he does. You're right. You get that sense that he does study. He's very well read. He's not just like you said, a brute force. He's actually paying attention to the details and planning how he's going to do things and making preparations and stuff. And so that is cool. I do like that. I like a smart villain. And so it's one thing to be just a strong, menacing villain, but it's another thing if you got that plus you're really, intelligent, and I think that makes for a deeper character. So I think that's cool.
I don't know if y'all have experienced one of these missions yet, but it's not necessarily a spoiler because the first game had the MJ missions. They did bring them back. I'm not going to spoil anything for you, Derek. Don't think you've gotten to this. MJ is the most overpowered character in this whole game. I think she could have taken down Kraven herself.
Look.
That's crazy.
Now she does try, and he knocks her back at one point.
True.
But you're right. It's like in the first game, playing as MJ. Man, if they even saw you, you were dead. You had to start that mission over. In this one, they mention, I guess in Miles Morales, Peter and her go to Europe to investigate something, and she apparently she got some combat training in Europe, and she comes back and she's a little better prepared, and so it's still like stealth missions, but it does add a little extra to it, and it feels a little odd because it's kind of like Spider-Man can sneak around. I mean, he's really quiet and he can crawl and do all the stuff, but man, as soon as he shows up, they all know it and they're all like converging on his position, and it takes him a little while to beat all of them up, but MJ just rolls up in there and starts taking people out. And it's like, it's a little weird.
Yeah, it just kind of breaks. It's like, you have to work really hard as the Spider-Man to like defeat people. And then MJ just comes up in there and she's just like, kneel before Zod.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, they don't seem as tough when she's there. Yeah.
No, definitely not. So with all the new stuff that was added, what was the one thing? I know we talked about the wingsuit, but other than the wingsuit, what is one thing during your playthrough that y'all have just enjoyed? Like it changed the gameplay for you?
For me, I think arguably it's the like second, because we have the gadget wheel, and I know that's been kind of dumbed down for the game. Like that'd be my one big like negative would be like they just simplified it to the 4 sacred symbol buttons, but to have that other wheel be like your spider abilities, like like with Peter you have like this extra attachment that comes out, and then with Miles, it's his Venom abilities. Like just that adds it, and then like that way you can evolve them, like, upgrade them as you get skill points and whatnot to make it more simplistic. So that just adds more to like the combat, to where it does, like with Arkham, like I know by the time you got to Arkham Knight, you could integrate your gadgets, the Batmobile, and your fists and kicks as well. But with Spider-Man, like it really does feel like a hindrance if you just rely on punching and kicking and like not using those abilities.
Yeah, that's true.
But what about you?
I mean, the truthful answer is the flight suit, probably. But other than that, let's see. I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess that ability to swap between the characters, and the fact that at any moment you can swap between Peter and Miles and play as them really at almost any moment. I mean, sometimes they force you into a character for certain parts of the main story, and I like that they did simplify, I feel like, the skill tree, because you have a skill tree for Peter and a skill tree for Miles, but then there's also one that's for both of them together, so you're upgrading sort of the passive abilities that goes to both of them, and I like that I only have to spend one skill point to upgrade both characters.
100%.
So that feels pretty good to me, and it's not overcomplicated. And sometimes, man, you open those menus and you're just like, oh gosh, I don't even know if I want to read this page.
Right.
But this doesn't feel that way. It's pretty simple. It's pretty streamlined, and I guess that's probably one of the things that they changed that does make it better. I think streamlined is the right word to use. They've streamlined a lot of the menu system and a lot of the combat mechanics. I do like that. I mean, I really like the selection wheel. It's gone, but I do think that they found the proper balance there, where it's L1 for the character abilities, and it's R1 plus the face buttons for the weapon gadgets. And that, I think that was a simple, effective solution to that. Sometimes, I don't know, sometimes the wheel's cool because everything slows down and you get to pick what you want to use, and then you use it. But this allows you to kind of string together multiple things. Rather than having to use one thing and then slow down and pick a different weapon and use it, and then slow down and pick another weapon and use it. It's just like kind of bam, 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 So I think that streamlining was a really good choice for kind of improving the game.
Because that streamlining everything to like the combos to make use of it too. There's a side quest in there that's like challenge, like they're pretty much like challenge rooms, like they serve a purpose to like that side quest story, but they're basically like, because you get, like, if you beat it in a certain time, you get X amount of rewards. Like there's a section in there like that's like, oh, take the least amount of hits, and I'm like, it forces you to not use just punches and kicks. Like you have to use your whole entire arsenal if you want to get gold in that challenge.
And to the original game, you had so many different combos that you had to learn to really be the best Spider-Man. And, if you're going to pour a ton of time in, that was awesome. But when you're just like trying to learn the game, and it's like, it felt like Budokai, Dragon Ball Budokai back in the day, where you had to like have, square. Oh, it was Kamehameha Wave. Instead, now it's like L1 and circle on, the newer games. But now it is, okay, punch a square, triangle is webs, and then I've got my abilities and all of that. And I think the streamlining of that is great. I think there's two things that I like that they've added. The parrying system, so you're not always having to dodge. That was such a nice thing. Even like the things like the red attacks where you should get out of the way, like you would take less damage if you parried it. And then something that I wish they would have used more of, I felt like there was less stealth sections in the game compared to the first one. So far, I haven't done a ton of the side quest stuff, but the ability to launch a line out wherever you are and be able to cross those new spaces in a different way, I thought that was a really, really cool tool to be added to the game.
I would agree with both of those things. The partying is really good, and the what do they call that? Launch a
The line
web
launcher.
line.
Is it line launcher?
Web line or line launcher.
Something
The line
like that.
launcher.
One of the two.
Something that's Batman. Isn't that Batman?
Oh yeah, web line. Then so we're it's all the same.
Isn't it just Arkham with just Spider-Man at this point?
It is,
But all in all, I thought the game was amazing. I can't wait for them to put a new Game Plus mode in. I think they kind of missed the mark not having that from the get-go, but I can only imagine where they're going to take us in the third installment. Where do y'all where y'all at right now in the story?
Well,
where do y'all want to see the third one?
I want to ask you this since you finished it. Do you feel like it gave you any clues as to what the DLC will be? Because they're planning some of that too, and the DLC was pretty expansive for the first game.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, it was probably about as long as Miles Morales.
Good point.
And they're going to do that.
DLC, no. Third game, yes. They definitely set up the final act for this series. But where do y'all want to see this go? Because I made a prediction in my first hour playthrough. I was like, this is what's going to happen. And I will just have to say, my prediction is true. So there you go.
Oh, wow. All right.
But where do y'all want to see it? Like, knowing only what you know now, where do you want to see the third one happen?
Location-wise?
Location, villains, whatever.
So for me, I understand, again, very, night and day, two sides of the same coin, comparing it to Batman Arkham. I know Arkham kind of stayed within Gotham City. They just kind of expanded it from Asylum to a section of the city to pretty much all of Gotham to be playable in the installment.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, because Marvel is especially with Spider-Man, he has such an extensive rogues gallery. He has such he is here, there, everywhere because he's part of the Avengers. At certain points, I would like to see other locations like New York could still be the central hub, but kind of branch out and go other places. Go to maybe Madripoor. I know that's a hotbed in recent MCU and video game talk. Or maybe go to a different continent. Maybe bring in Wakanda. Just doesn't even have to include other characters. Can just be references and oh well, this we have to go get vibranium from Wakanda, and you see characters from Black Panther, but you don't see Black Panther himself. So I would like to see more locations in the Marvel universe brought into it, but still keep it its own game, because we've had Avengers, we've had other there are other video games, there's an Iron Man, a Black Panther, then an old school Civil or Captain America Black Panther game in the works. It doesn't have to cross streams per se, but just introduce put them in that universe.
Okay, so more MCU stuff being brought into the world instead of the hints.
Yeah, or just more Marvel extended, stuff.
Okay. Yeah. I just remembered something. There is a potential DLC that's kind of hinted at. The Nelson and Murdoch sign is missing off their building. So I think that might be our DLC for this. And Daredevil and Spider-Man work a lot together in the comics, so that would be so dope.
That's true.
And to maybe even get to play as Daredevil, that might be the backdoor plot. To get a Daredevil game in. Oh my god, that would be so awesome.
See, I feel like I heard that too, and I think that probably is what the DLC will be. I mean, they were pretty. It's we'll see. Keep an eye out for the news. It's okay, well, yeah, you pretty much just confirmed that Daredevil is going to be some part of this.
Yeah.
So I think that will be really cool, and I wouldn't mind. I think a Daredevil game could work. When you think about superhero games, it's really hard, I think, to make a Superman game work because, and that's why they haven't done it. But characters like Spider-Man and Batman, and those work really well, and we've seen that work really well. I think Daredevil could be another one of those characters that could work really well, and has a lot of rich lore and history behind it that they can pull from, a lot of source material to pull from, and just his abilities and his skills, his skill set, I think would lend itself really well to a video game. So I would be excited for that, and I think that this could be a way to do that. They did also say here in the last few days that they're working on the Wolverine game as well. And they did say that Wolverine, they didn't say there was going to be a crossover, but they said that this Wolverine does exist in the same world as this Spider-Man. And so there is potential there for them to do more stuff like that. And I just don't know. My fear is that they will not be able to handle that much work. Like if they keep branching out, I feel like something's going to take a hit in quality. And but then if you hire a different studio to do a game, are they going to really be able to communicate and make sure everything stays cohesive and all of that,
Sure.
If it doesn't stay within Insomniac. And so I don't know. It would be cool to see other characters and get those cameos and kind of expand that world, because we all know that they're out there somewhere. It's not just Spider-Man. But I don't know if they could hold it all together and keep it all cohesive. So that does worry me a little bit, but I don't know.
And you have a good point, because you kind of beat me to the punch there, because that thought came through my head. It's like, oh, because Insomniac is working on Wolverine. Like, what if they made even like a reference, like, because I think they bring up a reference to Wolverine in like at some point, like whether it be DLC or like maybe there's like an Easter egg that you have to look for that references it. But I don't think it's until Wolverine comes out that they may bring that to fruition, like saying, oh, Spider-Man stops Kraven from destroying New York City type of thing, and like ravaging it. So like they might bring that into the fold. But my thing is like, how far does that crossover, like not crossover, but like shared universe go? Because we all know the savagery that Wolverine brings, and it's going to be rated M. Spider-Man's more of a teen game, so you really can't have those two cross streams, because then it'll like you'll either dilute one or kind of ruin the other one for like what type of like atmosphere each game brings. So I think a shared universe is nice, but I don't know if I want to see those characters interact or like in DLC or in each other's games.
I would love to see a Wolverine versus Kraven the Hunter. this Kraven the Hunter hunting Wolverine. That would be really good.
Bruh.
That would be perfect. That would be perfect. I don't think Kraven's going to be walking away.
I know. Oh, that's crazy. Oh my gosh.
Derek, you kind of gave us this setting that you would like on the next one. What are the villains that you want to see? We've seen a lot of Spider-Man villains, but what are some ones that you want to see in the third game?
Because they showed a lot in the first one. Miles kind of showed like some like B-list, C-list characters in his game. Not having played through all of this, I'm not sure, because we're seeing some of the mainstays, like Kraven, Lizard, and like some other ones that appear in some side quests, that weren't seen in the first game. We alluded to Sandman showing up for the first time in this like gaming universe. But it's like, and he, like we've said, he has an extensive rogues gallery, and a lot of the knowns have been shown. But I would also like to see, and I don't know, of course, again, not having played through all of it, Zach, I know you'll have a smirk and be like, I can't talk about it. But like, seeing Morbius would likely show up, like, and like maybe I know for all the flack that the films get, like they did expand like the symbiote universe with like Venom, Carnage, and like all that kind of stuff. So I'd like to see some of those others, because again, if you've seen trailers, spoilers, not really spoilers, Venom's in the game at some capacity as well. Like you can't walk by a billboard without seeing Venom. Let's be fair. But like some more like symbiote, like the family tree. I would even like to see them more like to kind of bleed into like the 90s cartoons, like The Beyonder or Madam Web, like see some of those, or like just more of like the spider, like doesn't have to be villains, but like more of like the spider family, like Spider Woman, or Gwen Stacy. You
Mm.
know, that because that's a good point. And correct me if I'm wrong. If I missed it in the first Miles or Spider-Man 1, we have not seen an existence of Gwen Stacy yet. So, like,
No.
are we going to see Spider-Gwen?
Gwen's no, actually, no, she wouldn't be dead in this universe because there's one villain that hasn't shown up yet, and I don't want to talk about any of that, but you can.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah. Hobgoblin.
That's in this game.
No, I can't. I can't talk about any of that. I'm talking about in the third game.
Another one that just comes from the 90s. Alistair Smythe would be a good
with the spider hunters, like having those come in. That'd be pretty dope.
Yeah.
I agree. I think Morbius would be cool, and Venom, and we haven't seen Chameleon yet. Who could be cool, or Hobgoblin. I mean, really, we haven't seen Green Goblin either.
True.
So, but they've never used Hobgoblin for anything. It feels like, No. And so I wouldn't mind seeing Hobgoblin in something. Just use him in something. Like I haven't seen him since the 90s. That's what I feel like.
I feel like it was like, okay, we've used Green Goblin too much, so we're going to create the Hobgoblin, but bring Mark Hamill in. Let him be the Hobgoblin like he was in the 90s. Ooh. Oh my God, that would be so good.
Yeah. That would be good. Yeah.
So, we almost got him, in No Way Home, in the whole multiverse thing, but they nixed it. There's like, we don't want to work. We don't want to bring that to life just yet. And I'm like, do it, you cowards. Come on now.
Speaking of locations, you saying Madam Web, we haven't seen Madam Web, made me think of this, but you remember in the 90s cartoon that they did Secret Wars and Madam Web sent him and all the other heroes out to, wherever, and they had to fight Dr. Doom and all that. And so, I mean, that could be cool for the third game too. Some kind of location like that. That would be really neat. But then they'd have to introduce quite a few characters that you probably can't play as, which is fine. It'd still be cool to just see them. Because like we said earlier, they did such a great design. The character design on all these villains has been so good, and all of his suits have been so good. Man, can you imagine what they could do if you just opened it wide open for a Secret Wars game and they could do all these other superheroes? I mean, they would do an incredible job with that.
That would be amazing. Knowing what I know, I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to make my predictions on Spider-Man 3 because, it would spoil too much for y'all. But to kind of wrap this conversation up, I want to know, what is your favorite suit for both your Spider-Man? What are the ones that you go to? You got to play it. It's like, that's what I want to look like. What are your favorite suits?
Oh, man, I don't know the names of them that well to know.
I know.
Well, you can say what they look like.
Me,
and we'll pull them up.
I like the anti-Ock one from the end of the last game, that black metallic with the gold spider. I really like that one a lot. And Miles has one that's pretty similar to that I can't remember what it's called, but I like that look. I think that looks really cool.
So I changed. So I started off with certain one. Of course, you start off with their base suits, but then as I unlocked them, like what I've got unlocked so far, like I changed Peter to Spider-Man 2099, kept it the base variant. But then there's an unlocked one. I don't know if it's Ultimate Spider-Man or like a Superior Spider-Man version, but I unlocked it. It's got like shiny over like where the chest is and the head, where the cowl is. But then I found a variant where it's like gold and white, like you almost look like the White Power Ranger. And I'm like, okay, I can rock with this one. And then Miles, I wore the tracksuit was like the red and like with the white, and then the black with the red webbing. That was for a while, but then I unlocked the one where it's like a tribute to Chadwick Boseman. It's a Wakandan like Black Panther spider one, and it's like I got the purple variant unlocked. I'm like, all right, I'm rocking with this one.
Nice. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
that is cool. You made me think of one other character I want to see though. That I think would be. No one would see it coming. It would be, but it could work. Is Moon Knight? I would really like to see Moon Knight show up in a Spider-Man game.
Good,
that would be awesome.
Because he could play the villain or the hero.
That's true.
And he could change
Yeah.
several
Yeah,
times.
he could change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be dope.
But Peter, like, I feel like one of those personalities could become Peter's friend, and they could be like becoming best friends. But then you find out that he's actually the villain too at the same time. I don't know. It could be cool.
That would be dope. That would be dope. My two suits that I love for Pete, Superior Spider-Man is like one of my go-tos, just because the Superior Spider-Man comic run, absolutely amazing. If none of anybody that's watching this that hasn't read that, highly recommend it. Amazing series. And then for Miles, there is a Daft Punk looking suit, and it is so cool. Like, it's got like the headphone jacks, the screen on the front. Yeah, it is so awesome. If y'all haven't checked that one out, definitely check it out. It is well worth it. But all the suits so far like are really cool. There's one that you unlock doing the Harlem Music Museum one that looks really cool. He looks like a Zoot suit like character and everything. So there are really cool costumes throughout the whole game.
They do a great job with the suit designs.
One thing that just popped in my head, Bo, this is our first interaction together, so you'll learn that I always have to, one more thing that pops in my head, as Zach can attest to. Going back to like what we want to see in a future installment. Obviously, again, we've talked about extensive rogues gallery. Would it be pertinent / make sense to have other Marvel villains, like say a Doctor Doom or like the Skrulls or anything like that, pop into Spider-Man game if it makes sense for the story? Or would you want to just see it contained to Spider-Man villains solely?
Well, I mean, if it's going to be something like the Skrulls, I think that you can't do that unless you bring in more heroes. I don't know how you just have Spider-Man or Spider-Man and Miles and do a Skrull story. I love Doctor Doom. Once we hit Avengers Endgame, well, even way before that, I had really hoped that the next big bad villain would either be Doctor Doom or Kang. And they did Kang, obviously, but I really wanted it to kind of be Doctor Doom. I really like Doctor Doom a lot. I think Doctor Doom could work. In fact, the first comic book that I ever owned when I was a kid that I bought myself was it was a special issue of Spider-Man where Doctor Doom was the villain. And I mean, I read through that thing so many times, and it just like, and Spider-Man's Doctor Doom's like shooting laser blasts or something at him and out of his fingertips or something crazy like that. And Spider-Man's like doing all these crazy poses, like dodging them. And man, I thought those panels were so illustrated so well, so cool. And so I think that seeing Doctor Doom, that would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Yeah, Doctor Doom would be a pretty dope villain. Like, he scales really well. Like, either like a smaller villain, just attacking a city, to a more global threat. I think he scales really well. Unlike other villains where I think they're, like a Scorpion, always going to be a smaller villain, but Doom can scale. Right. Yeah, Rhino. Yeah. And it would be awesome to see, if they do go the route of, more open universe. You got Doctor Doom, you know who you need to introduce.
You're already in New York.
Yeah, you need Reed Richards. You need the Fantastic Four when you're bringing in Doom, and that would be pretty dope. There you have it, everybody. That is our thoughts on Spider-Man 2. We want to know your thoughts as well, so put them down in the comments below. Bo Knows Gaming, go check it out. Link is in the description. Bo, what are you doing over on your channel? Give them a little plug. Give them a little behind the curtain. Peel it back for them.
Well, you know what? I'm trying to get a Spider-Man review done, but it's with Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Spider-Man coming out on the same day. I'm trying to play both of them at the same time, and it's just taking a little longer to get those reviews done. But I'm also working on a review of this right here. Actually, this is I do a lot of retro handheld stuff, and this device right here plays Dreamcast, it plays Nintendo 64, plays PSP. So it does a lot of different things, a lot of different retro consoles, and it's pretty neat. So I did an unboxing video of it and kind of first impressions, but right now I'm working on a full review.
Well, that sounds awesome, guys. Go subscribe to Bo Knows Gaming. You're going to enjoy your time there because he knows gaming. Mm-hmm. Clearly, you could hear it through this whole episode. But guys, thank y'all so much for watching. This has been Zach,
Derek,
and Bo.
Y'all have a blessed week.